Joon-woo was playing a video game when something terrifying happened. Suddenly, everyone in his live stream chat began flooding the screen with the same message. "Run! Get out of there now!" At first, he thought it was just a prank by his fans, but then he received an emergency alert from the National Disaster Agency. Right after that, he heard a loud crash outside, followed by screams from the floor below. Confused, Joon-woo stepped out onto the balcony, and what he saw left him completely shocked. The world outside was in total chaos. People were fleeing buildings in a panic. A fire truck crashed out of control. And then, he saw someone on the street biting another person. Joon-woo stood frozen. He had no idea what was happening. At that moment, a woman ran out to protect her daughter with a kitchen knife in her hand. But as soon as she got close, her own daughter lunged at her and began biting her like a wild animal. Joon-woo watched in horror, completely stunned. Just when he didn't know what to do next, there was a sudden, loud bang at his door. He looked through the peephole. Everything outside looked normal again. Curious, he reached for the doorknob. But the moment he opened it, a man forced his way in. Startled, Joon-woo backed away. It was his neighbor, Sang-chul. They weren't close at all, and Joon-woo's first instinct was to kick him out. But Sang-chul refused to leave. He pleaded, "Let me use your bathroom. I'll leave right after that." With no better option, Joon-woo reluctantly agreed and turned on the television. That's when he finally learned the truth. A mysterious virus was spreading through the city. It turned people into mindless, raging monsters similar to zombies, and anyone bitten would also become infected. Joon-woo began to panic. He remembered there was blood on Sang-chul's clothes. Terrified, he started looking for a weapon. At that moment, Sang-chul stepped out of the bathroom. Joon-woo grabbed a knife and screamed at him to leave. Sang-chul insisted he was fine, but a second later, his eyes suddenly turned blood red. Then, something terrifying began to happen. Facing Sang-chul as he charged forward, Joon-woo's adrenaline spiked. Using all his strength, he finally managed to push Sang-chul out of the apartment. But just as he slammed the door shut, before he could catch his breath, the noise he made attracted something even worse. Outside, Sang-chul was pinned down by a much larger and more terrifying zombie. Seeing this, Joon-woo froze, too scared to make even the slightest sound. Once the zombie moved away, he quickly dragged his refrigerator over and blocked the door shut. Immediately, Joon-woo tried to call his parents to see if they were okay, but no one answered. Fortunately, not long after, his mother sent a message saying they were safe for now. She told him clearly, "Stay inside and wait for rescue." When night fell, Joon-woo took inventory of the little food he had left. At first, he divided the food into 7 portions, but after reconsidering, he divided it again into 9. No one could predict how long this chaos would last. The next day, he saw videos online of people desperately pleading for help. Inspired, he decided to record his own plea, hoping someone would notice. But soon, his hopes faded. He noticed that some people had even started live streaming their despair. If anyone out there could help, they would have done something by now. Then Joon-woo saw his drone and suddenly had a brilliant idea. He strapped his phone to the drone and sent it out to check the situation outside. But what he saw through the drone's camera was truly horrifying. The entire neighborhood had become a playground for zombies. Not a single survivor was in sight. Feeling hopeless, Joon-woo decided to distract himself by playing a video game. But just as the game started, he was suddenly disconnected from the server. Apparently, the zombies had started destroying parts of the internet network as well. Since he couldn't play, Joon-woo thought he might as well go to sleep. But around 2:30 in the morning, he was suddenly woken up by strange noises below. Curious and worried, he ran to check what was happening. But the moment he peered out, a bullet whizzed past his head. It turned out a policewoman below was in a brutal fight against the zombies. She was brave and tough, but the sound of the gunshots attracted more of them. To make matters worse, she ran out of bullets. While she was trying to reload, one of the zombies lunged and tackled her to the ground. More zombies quickly piled on, pinning her down with no way out. In a moment of pure despair, she raised her gun to her head, ready to end it all herself. But after just a second of hesitation, she couldn't do it. Two zombies grabbed her arms and dragged her toward the parking garage. Down there, it was infested with even more of them. Watching everything from above, Joon-woo couldn't take it anymore. He screamed with all his might, trying to draw the zombies away from her. But it was already too late. Not only did he fail to save her, but his screams attracted something much worse. With a loud bang, the refrigerator blocking his door was kicked open. That large zombie, the one that dragged his neighbor away, was now coming straight for him. Terrified, Joon-woo ran to push the refrigerator back into place. But against that monster, he stood no chance. Just as the creature was about to break in, Joon-woo had a sudden revelation. These zombies weren't very smart. He climbed over the edge of his balcony railing and hung off the outside, holding on tight. The zombie charged straight for him, missed completely, and fell from the top of the building. Joon-woo clung on for dear life and barely made it back up. But looking down again, he saw something that broke his heart. The brave policewoman had already turned into a zombie. After surviving the chaos, he immediately reinforced the front door. Then, he simply gave up on everything. He drank his father's old wine, ate instant noodles when he was hungry, took naps when he was tired, and cried quietly whenever he felt broken. But that peaceful misery didn't last long. Soon, he ran out of food. Just as he was drowning in despair, he miraculously received a voice message from his mother. But the signal was too weak. No matter what he tried, the message wouldn't play. So, he took a huge risk and climbed out the window to find a signal. Finally, he got a connection. But all he heard were the screams of his parents as they were attacked by zombies. Knowing his parents were likely dead shattered Joon-woo completely. All the pain and sadness exploded at once. Now, he didn't even want to live anymore. But instead of giving up quietly, he needed to let it all out. He opened the front door and started swinging his bat at the nearest zombie. He made loud noises on purpose, trying to attract more of them. When there was no response, he even stepped outside. But the moment he did, a massive wave of zombies came charging toward him. Joon-woo, who thought he was ready to die, got truly scared. He ran like crazy, but the other side was also full of zombies. He quickly pressed the elevator button. But the next second, a massive swarm of zombies came running. Joon-woo quickly dove behind a pile of trash and narrowly escaped the danger. Once the zombies were gone, he ran back home. But just then, he heard something behind him. Luckily, that zombie had been blind when it was alive and didn't see him. Joon-woo seized the moment, ran into his apartment, and slammed the door shut. The zombies were immediately drawn to the sound. Surprisingly, some of them still had vague memories of their human lives and even tried to open the door. Fortunately, they gave up after a while and left. That night, after taking his revenge on the zombies, Joon-woo recorded one last video. He was ready to say goodbye to the world. But just as he was about to take his last breath, a red light suddenly flashed through the window. It was coming from the building opposite his. At that instant, Joon-woo realized he wasn't the only survivor. He struggled to untie the rope and then looked quickly toward the red light. To his surprise, a young and beautiful girl was standing across the street. She pointed at him with disgust and called him an idiot. But instead of getting angry, Joon-woo felt strangely happy. He couldn't help but wave at her enthusiastically. The girl used hand signals to tell him they would talk again tomorrow at 7. Then they both went back to their rooms. Like Joon-woo, the girl had been living alone since the virus outbreak, but she was much better at surviving. She strictly rationed her food and even set traps inside her apartment to take down any zombie that entered. The next day, they exchanged names. The girl's name was Kim. By then, Joon-woo had gone an entire day without eating. He was clutching his stomach in pain. Kim noticed his situation and decided to send him something to eat. Her plan was to tie a rope to a baseball, throw it across, and use it to connect the two buildings. But she underestimated the distance. Luckily, Joon-woo realized what she was trying to do and used his drone to fly the rope over to her. It worked. Soon, Joon-woo received the food package from Kim. He finally enjoyed a good meal. But just then, something unexpected happened. A zombified firefighter noticed the baseball tied to the rope. Joon-woo immediately warned Kim. As she ran to untie the rope, the zombie pulled it with force, crashing a table into Kim and knocking her unconscious. Worse yet, this zombie still had the skills from when it was alive. It began to climb the building. Joon-woo grabbed a bottle and threw it at the zombie to distract it, but the zombie didn't care at all. As it climbed closer to Kim's apartment, Joon-woo flew his drone to interfere. At first it worked, but the zombie soon swatted the drone down. Just as the zombie was about to enter Kim's room, she fortunately woke up just in time. That night, heavy rain began to fall. Both of them ran to get bowls and pots to collect water. Kim then pulled out a pair of binoculars and saw something interesting. The 8th floor of another nearby building seemed to be completely clear of zombies. As time passed, their food supplies became dangerously low. If they wanted to survive, they had no choice but to go out and look for more. That night, Joon-woo wrapped his feet with towels to avoid making noise. He grabbed his baseball bat and headed out the door. In the hallway, he found keys on a neighbor's body. He used them to enter the next apartment. Inside, he quickly noticed someone lying on the floor. He threw a shoe at the person. No reaction. Relieved, he began searching the place. When he opened the refrigerator, a foul smell hit his nose. But luckily, there were still some canned goods and drinks left. He packed them up and kept searching. In the room with the body, he found even more cans and 2 walkie-talkies. Just as he was about to leave, Joon-woo made the foolish decision to check the body more closely. Suddenly, a zombie lunged at him from behind. He grabbed the body and used it as a shield to block the attack. Then he bolted down the hallway, ran all the way home, and slammed the door. That night, he enjoyed his most satisfying meal in days. After eating, he packed half the food with one of the walkie-talkies in a box and sent it to Kim using the rope between their buildings. The next morning, a voice came over the walkie-talkie. It was Kim, thanking him for the food. Hearing another human voice again made Joon-woo feel moved. From then on, they talked every day over the walkie-talkies. Their friendship gave them the strength to keep going in this nightmare. But that day, while they were chatting, they suddenly heard what sounded like rain. Joon-woo ran to the window to collect water, but when he opened it, he froze. There was no rain. It was the sound of zombie footsteps. For some reason, all the zombies had gone into a frenzy and were storming the buildings. The 2 of them immediately hit the floor, afraid to make the slightest noise. As Kim reached out to grab her axe, she accidentally knocked over a shelf. The noise caught the attention of the zombies. They began crawling toward Kim's apartment. She heard their footsteps getting closer and closer and began to panic. Then Joon-woo asked for her apartment number. Just as the zombies reached her door, a phone began to ring in the apartment next door. The zombies turned around and followed the sound. It turned out Joon-woo had called the neighbor's phone to distract them. His quick thinking saved Kim's life. Now the zombies on their floor were getting out of control and their food was running out fast. Staying there was too dangerous. So they decided to move to the floor Kim had seen before, the one with no zombies. They began packing all their supplies. Then Kim quickly secured the rope. Just as Joon-woo told her to let him go first, Kim coolly jumped without hesitation. The moment she landed, zombies surrounded her from all directions. But Kim pulled out her climbing pick and somehow fought her way through the horde. Joon-woo watched in shock from above. But just as Kim picked up a gun dropped by a dead policeman, a zombie tackled her. At that critical moment, Joon-woo arrived just in time. He defeated the zombie and led her toward the stairwell. Once they managed to get into the new building, they quickly shut the glass door. Just before the door gave way, they managed to scramble into the elevator. Luckily, it still had backup power. They had explored the 8th floor before, and just as they hoped, it was quiet. They began going door to door, trying to find a safe room. But suddenly, a lone zombie appeared in the hallway. Seeing there was only one, Joon-woo prepared to attack. But at that moment, an entire swarm came running from the staircase. It was a total emergency. Kim ran to try and open more doors, while Joon-woo ripped off a gate to block the charging zombies. At that instant, a door flew open. A hand grabbed Kim and pulled her inside. Then, a smoke grenade flew down the hallway. A mysterious man appeared and pulled Joon-woo into the room as well. They were safe for now. But Kim remained alert, because she clearly remembered that floor was supposed to be empty. The man poured them each a glass of water. Seeing their hesitation, he said he understood. Only after watching him drink it all in one gulp did they finally dare to sip carefully. It seemed he really was just another survivor. Then he brought out some food. The starving pair immediately began eating like wolves. The man told them to eat without worry. He had just heard on the radio that a rescue team was on the way. This news lit up their faces. They were so moved they nearly cried. Hope was finally here. But Kim suddenly felt something was wrong. She looked around the room and noticed that none of the family photos matched the man in front of them. Just as she was about to ask him, Joon-woo collapsed beside her. Moments later, her own vision blurred and she too fell unconscious. The man wasted no time. He dragged Kim toward a back room. When Kim woke up, she was horrified to see a female zombie tied up in front of her. It was the man's wife. He had loved her deeply, and even after she turned into a zombie, he refused to let her go. He couldn't stand to see her go hungry, so he lured survivors in to feed her. The family that once lived there had become her food. Outside the room, the man slowly loosened the rope holding his wife back. Kim screamed and backed away in fear. Just then, Joon-woo woke up and, in a panic, pointed his gun at the man. But the man looked him in the eye and calmly let go of the rope. Joon-woo lunged forward, trying to grab the end. But the zombie's strength was too much. The rope slipped away. Joon-woo ran to the door, only to find it was locked. A terrible scream echoed through the room. Then silence. Had the zombie finished her meal? The man slowly opened the door, only for the zombie to pounce and bite his neck. It turned out Kim had covered the zombie's head with a pillow and managed to survive. Watching the man still try to comfort his zombie wife, Kim couldn't take it anymore. She pulled the trigger, ending their suffering. But the gunshot attracted a flood of zombies to the building. Faced with certain death, Kim and Joon-woo exchanged a bitter smile. They raised their weapons, ready to end it all. But just then, a loud roar echoed outside. They ran to the window. A rescue helicopter was approaching. Hope returned to their hearts with a vengeance. With renewed determination, they ran down the hallway. After narrowly dodging the rushing horde, Joon-woo used a bicycle to block the zombies chasing them. They finally reached the rooftop and forced the door shut. But no matter how hard they fought to hold it, the zombies broke through. Just when all seemed lost, the helicopter spotted them and opened fire on the zombies, driving them back. The two were finally rescued. At the same time, the radio tower was finally repaired. One by one, more survivors began sending SOS messages online. Because as long as you're alive, there's always hope, even in the darkest moments.